just about exactly 100 years ago. Over the years, the educational program has been refined and matured into a simple, concise, and thorough methodology that can be consistently improved consistently improve anyone's public speaking and leadership skills. By following the program, the members themselves could coach and teach each other. The program was accessible to anyone in the world, regardless of wealth status or resources. As we progress into the computer age, computers have been introduced into the program with mixed results. Our speaker today has a degree in computer science and has dedicated his career to process improvements for business and industries. Surprisingly, his solutions to the problem do not always involve his computer skills. Today he's going to share with us a novel approach for us to consider implementing to enhance our individual Toastmasters journey to becoming better leaders. At the same time, improve the overall quality of our club meetings. Please help me welcome to the stage distinguished Toastmaster David Havlin.
Last week, I stood on this stage at the end of the meeting, as I do pretty much every meeting, and asked, what roles are you going to take next week? What roles are you going to take? Who's going to be here next week? Who is going to be here today and didn't mark it on the computer on our Easy Speak? And I do this every week after week, and we consume quite a bit of time every time at the end of the meeting where we say we end at 8 o'clock. And we don't. We end at 10 after, 5 after, 15 after. And then I had this epiphany, along with a little bit of our work that we did over the weekend. And it reminded me of something that I do in my job. I'm going to come back to that. Right now, I'd like to talk about a little bit of the end result. So first, I have a sign-up sheet. It doesn't need batteries. It won't run out of charge. I don't have to plug it in. And it even works if the power goes out. And the beauty is that none of us, having brought our laptop, still have access to this. There are no special instructions. The instructions are simple. In fact, if I gave you this paper, you would probably know exactly what to do just by looking at it. And what is that to do? Well, where do you want to fill in a spot? You will sign it. You will put your name in a spot. This paper will be placed by our badges. So when you walk in and you're grabbing your name badge, you can also, I'm going to put my name down. And the beauty is, it's not just next week. It's the whole month. I have put this chart together so that it's a whole month. And I'll be putting one out there for next month as we get further along in this month. So you will always be able to sign up several weeks in advance. I can think of one instance where this is particularly helpful. How long do you typically use or need to prepare for a speech? Anybody? How long would you like to take for a speech?
A couple weeks.
A couple weeks? 2 weeks? Robert, how long do you take to do a speech?
It depends on the speech, but sometimes 10 minutes or 3 days.
Great. By the way, how much time did I spend on this? Well, last night, we didn't have a speaker, so this morning we do. Jason, how long do you like to spend in preparing for a speech?
Lots of time, 10 days.
10 days?
Yes.
Well, if you're signing up for a speech next week, how much time do you have to prepare for that speech? 6 days. So you now have the opportunity to sign up well in advance. We always had this, but now it's easier. at least I want to hear from you. Does this sound like this will be a little bit easier on you, that you don't have to go into easy speak for us to still get this information?
Yes.
Who doesn't like this idea over what we're doing today? Robert.
That paper is in only one place.
You are correct. This
And
paper is in only one
whoever
place.
creates the agenda is not aware of that paper, then they can't use the information.
That is correct. Which brings me to the next point of this. Thank you for that prompt. And I know we didn't stage this, but that is perfectly asked, because I am going to take this paper, and when I go home after the meeting, what names are put on here, I will apply to the website. So if you decide after we leave the meeting that you want to fill in a role, other than right afterwards, right? But that if on Saturday, if you go in there and you look, I will have put all of the names that have been put on paper, I will add them to the website. So you don't have to rely just on this paper. You might decide halfway through the week, oh, I'm going to do a speech in 2 weeks. Great. Do the normal process. You go in, you click on the request a speech. You'll enter your info, you'll pick your date, and then I will get a notification, and I will click it and say, yes, add them to that role. The one you can't do is Toastmaster. So speakers, you have to click the request a speech. And Toastmaster, and this is a part of Easy Speak, and they did this as a way to protect that role, is that as the VPE, I have to assign the Toastmaster. That's the only role that's held that way, though. Robert, you had another question.
Yeah. You should have a rolling 4 weeks for the sheet.
Yes.
Not just publish it once a month.
So what I have here is March 2025, and then for the 4 weeks that we have. I have another page right here, which I'm going to keep them together, so we'll always have 2 pages on the table at any one time. And that way, I think that's reasonable that we'll always have at least half a month available, or actually a full month always. So thank you again for asking that. You're asking just the right questions. So I'm going to set that down for now, and that's what I'm going to be doing, putting that out there. If I am not here, then I'll do my best to get that paper to someone else. Perhaps we'll put some of those extras into the Sergeant-at-Arms box, so that if we need it, we have a quick way where people can continue to sign up. You may not see the results from the previous weeks, but at least you can sign up. And if there is a conflict, I'll reach out and resolve it, or whoever the BPE is can reach out and resolve it.
How about a line on your chart for not available on a certain week?
So that's a good question. A line on the chart for not available, and I believe you're meaning kind of like next week we have moments of truth. So I crossed out the 7th, and then again we're having a business meeting on the 14th. So I scratched through. So you won't be signing up for things. I still need a, and you'll see a circle there, timer for I need actually a timer for both of the next 2 meetings. So that is something I'll ask if anyone would be a timer for both the Moments of Truth next week or the week after. About now, you're probably going, well, how does this tie in with David's work? And a lot of times I walk into a customer and they'll say, we want to automate this system. We need to make this better. We want to get this online. We've been doing this other method where they kind of had perhaps started to set up something like they've created a spreadsheet or some other semi-workflow to do whatever task it is that they're doing. And there was this one particular time I was working at Michelin Tire at their rubber plant. They make tires out of rubber. They have plants that just make rubber. And luckily enough, where my office was as a consultant or a contractor, because Michelin Tire is so secretive, not only do they not patent the things that they are doing, but they have segmented out all of the parts that happen in the assembly line in the process. That one group will come in and they'll put whatever it is they're working on into a holding area, close the doors. Then the group on the other side will open the doors, take it out, and do their part in the process. And then so on through each step of this, so that no one person can learn the entire process of how they make tires. So much so that they put the contractors out in trailers. The beauty of that, if you worked in that building, massive building, you got covered in carbon black. Even the office space, you can't help it. Even with the ventilation that they had and everything, there's carbon black everywhere. So I had the luxury of being out in the other room. I also had the opportunity to see this from afar, knowing that when I would go into like my boss's office, which was in the main building, I had an epiphany in that process. What they were trying to do actually lent itself really well to 3x5 cards. 3x5 cards do not react to carbon black. Keyboards get clogged up with carbon black. Computers don't last long. And at that time, we didn't have iPads, but even iPads can have problems with this environment. It's very toxic, it's very corrosive, and it's really messy. Don't wear your good shoes. I had black tennis shoes. In fact, that still goes today. Why I wear black tennis shoes is going back to my days at Michelin. So from that, I started to think, well, wait a minute. We're forcing us into this computer system. But no one here, save my computer and the one over there, do we have computers? Could we? I suppose. We've never really tested that. But I think if it were convenient, then more of us would have our laptops here today. So how do we relieve ourselves of the laptop or the computer, which if you don't have a laptop, like in Mike's case, you have no computer, you have your phone. Or where you only have a desktop computer. These are some challenges that we're trying to get around and work around now with what we have as this new system. And so, one, doing this helps out. The next thing that came to my mind is how, when we come up here, the only evaluation we give is if you've prepared a speech. No other role gets a formal evaluation.
The general
We have a
evaluator
general
does.
evaluator. That is correct. And the general evaluator will come up and give little snippets, little bits and pieces of some or most of the roles of the meeting that day. And of course, how the meeting ran overall. But, and I can tell you, I already know that this is going to be, some of you are going to take offense to this and think this is blasphemous. Prior to our new organization and how we do the learning, we had another manual which you would bring, and if you were going to be Table Topics Master, you handed your paper, your evaluation form, your manual, to someone else. They took that, and when you were Table Topics Master, they would observe, and they would fill out in more detail how you did in that role. Would you like feedback specific to your role whenever you gave a role so that you could improve? Doesn't that sound kind of like the whole Toastmaster theory? Yes. So how did we lose that? And by the way, all you get is verbal feedback when you have a general evaluator. Instead, this provides an actual written evaluation. So that brought me to, and Jason I have to give credit to, and asked me about, well, what are these manuals that you always refer to, which are, then I say blasphemous, because we need to adopt the new program. Absolutely. And I am game on for Pathways and making that work. But as we all know, who here needs help with Pathways today? Who needs some help with it? Okay, I can tell you that several of us haven't even finished, while we have on the score sheet, because as the VPE, I can go in there and see, and on the score sheet, I see that you've completed all the steps, but you haven't finished it and submitted it. So I know that a lot more of us should be raising our hand than are. So the problem isn't just that we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. And that's the worst possible case. So what I'm offering up is that as a supplemental, as a complementary part of the program, since today, Pathways, you only get evaluated and you only get reviewed and you only have additional information what is on speech and not on what is in leadership. So all of you have in your email right now a link to the PDF of one of these. This is not to replace Pathways in any way, shape, or form. But what this does have, this, good question, this is the Competent Leadership Manual. Now, why this matters is that none of this is actually in Pathways. This is just talking about those things that we do that are focused on leadership. So, when you are Toastmaster or when you are Table Topics Master, I would ask that you all turn over your agenda for today. You will see the scorecard that is the record sheet that is at the back of this manual. So here at the back of this manual was a score sheet, just a little cheat sheet, so that you would track these. It does have a lot of things that you'll say, well, I don't know anything about, like doing this high-performance leadership project. What's that? Okay, the way that they have earning Distinguished Toastmaster today, it's a little different than what it was. But these are some of the things, so I don't expect us to fill that out. But this is one possibility for how we can track how we progress, just to give us a little feedback as we go. Hey, I haven't done this role or that role. However, another option is something that Jason and Velda and I came up with after the business meeting, because we were just brainstorming and chatting and things like this. And I give great credit to Jason for saying, well, what we need is another score sheet. And so if I could get you guys, I'm going to start passing these out. This is a way to encourage us all. This is a way to encourage us all to take on roles that we aren't taking on. So I've seen quite a few times where the same people keep stepping up to do certain roles. And those of us who aren't necessarily as prepared or as experienced in Toastmasters, you're probably interested in taking on the easy roles, timer, auto counter, grammarian. But you really don't have anything in Pathways that incentivizes you to take on different roles. So with this score sheet, you can now keep track on your own of how you are progressing. And there are 4 boxes in front of each column. We were just thinking or throwing around ideas for a scoring mechanism so that when you take on the harder roles, you get more points. Again, this is a work in progress, but the goal of this paper is to get you to be thinking about, oh, I've done this role so many times. I've filled in my table. Let me try a different role. And this will help you when you're coming up at the beginning of the meeting to fill in this. You say, well, I haven't done Table Topics Master in a long time. Now I'll know. I'll go and do that. We can probably even come up with our own reward system on this process. Just like when they gave you Competent Leader as you completed a manual, we might come up with a little game or incentivization. Gamification is a great way to do this. We can do this, doesn't require a computer. You do have to keep track of that paper. And if you're concerned about that, my first suggestion would be every now and then, take a picture of it. So these are some of the ideas that we have for making minor adjustments to how we run the meeting that I think everyone will be able to benefit from and still preserve everything that we already do, and we don't step outside the lines that have been prepared for us by Toastmasters International. Consider this, and we'll talk more about this in the future.
Pretty cool, David.